Okay. All right. So our agenda, we'll do some welcome and introductions. We're going to do session teaching, which is by me, then Q&A time. So that's when I'll open up for questions. But in the middle of me teaching, if you need me to pause, explain something again, or you have a thought that you just want to express, you can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand. Then we'll kind of do a session photograph. So please, those of you that can turn on your videos, you can do that at that time, and we'll take a group picture. We'll have a recap and close out. Then I'm going to stay for about, I hope I can stay for an hour after the session. It's supposed to be 1 hour 30 minutes. Stay 1 hour if you have specific questions, things you just want to, anything you want to pick my brain. I will stay on for anybody. This is not compulsory, but I just thought to do that, especially if the Q&A time is not sufficient. So let's go into today's session. Now, what I really want to do, I'm not going to be teaching technical things, but I'm really going to be talking about things that you should pay attention to as you are starting the year, implementing your communication strategy. Some of you may have resumed and you have just discovered that the communication strategy you developed maybe in your retreat time in 2025 is dead on arrival. Like, you have to change it. Something or some dynamic has changed in your context, and so it may need to change. What I really want to do in this session is get you thinking about what it is you should be focusing on. So we're going to be looking at it from an organizational perspective, and I'm always big on everything that you do has to be about you as a professional. So it's not just about where you are working right now, it's about where you want to go in a few years to come. So these are just some of the lessons and observations that I wanted to highlight from 2025. They're quite more than this. Let me reduce this. Yeah, they're more than this, but these are the ones that I will highlight. First is, those of us that we fell into communications, or maybe you studied communications and you got into the field and you realize, hey, this is actually very different from what I anticipated. The reality of it is that this winging it approach won't cut it anymore. And so we're in this time where what you don't know can and will cost you, because that is the time we're living in. There's going to be a separation from the people who know what they're doing against the people who don't. So what you don't know is going to really, really be costly. And now we're living in very, very uncertain times, that thing that you don't know, the ripple effect can be very, very, very drastic. So this is not the year or the time to be winging it. If you don't know something, please get the knowledge. Second is internal standardization and professionalizing of the comms function. It boosts effectiveness and credibility. Last year, I engaged with about 2 organizations where we really helped them to structure their communications function. We developed standards, procedures, policies, and guidelines for implementation. And that structure really helped them to do better work, but it gave them internal credibility. And a lot of us, we know this, or we've experienced this thing of, oh, what does comms do? A comms person, you are the photographer, you are the this, you are the that, they are calling you, the program is this afternoon, they are telling you this morning. All of those things is because we're just going with the flow. And so I started to see that when we have our own internal standards as a team, even if you are just one person, it really does make a difference. And then you begin to educate your internal stakeholders about that process, about your policies, about your standards. And I saw this coming. It was a real heavy brain work, but I saw the difference that it made for the teams when they just had that, all of those things operationalized for their function. The next thing is non-comms people. They are upskilling in core communications competency areas. This one was very, very interesting. People studying law, people that are lawyers, people that are in other disciplines. And the reason is because they see that communication is going to be, or is already, something that is a key priority for an organization. And it's almost like, how you see something and you are planning ahead that, hey, so that I also have this skill and make myself relevant, let me learn these core communication competencies. I was in a board training last year, and I asked a question that why is it that comms people, PR people, they're not on the board? We don't see a lot of them. And the person I was teaching said actually there was a time they did have a board role, but what happened was the comms and PR people really didn't understand the business. They knew the comms side of things, but on a very tactical level, that there was a disconnect. So they couldn't function on a board level. And so what they had to do was find someone that is a non-technical comms person that then upskilled in that area. I just felt so sad. I was like, what's this? So there is room and space for us, but we have to be able to bridge that gap, because this, and we're going to be seeing more and more of this, where you have people from different disciplines trying to learn our work, and then they want to now take our work from us. We that were complaining about the work, imagine someone else coming to come and steal it. Then comms will continue to be relegated to the background if we do not take ownership of our work and communicate results. I can't count the number of conversations I had, maybe not even just last year, over the few years, and some people are frustrated. Why do we have to prove our value? Why do we have to be the ones to educate? I understand the frustrations, but the reality of it is that you have to understand the status quo that you're dealing with. You're dealing with a status quo where this profession is not yet recognized as it should. You're dealing with a status quo where there is a misunderstanding of what this role needs to deliver. And so it is up to you to take ownership of that work, communicate, and educate your stakeholders. I don't waste an opportunity to educate people as to what exactly my work is, even though I work as a communications advisor. When they make erroneous statements, I'm very, very quick to politely and respectfully correct it, because you have to be able to do that. And then we're seeing that more organizations are investing in comms training, and that's a good thing. The percentage is not so high, but it means that they're also seeing the value. So what that means is that you should be asking your HR, is there a budget for comms training? And identify the comms training that you need and let them fund it. Amen. Very, very, very important. So what are some of the shifts in 2026 to be mindful of? I think for me, number one is the encroachment of national sovereignty. The big guy in the United States, is it like just wakes up and just does something that you're like, how is this happening? I was having a conversation with someone, it's like, the person was like, Adedoyin, everything that I studied in international relations and diplomacy is just gone to the roof with the way the world is going, and you're just like, how is this? Things that could not be heard of 10 years ago, it's like happening in our eyes, and you're like, what is going on here? And it's not going to stop. I hope we know that. And everybody needs to be prepared. Now you can be saying, me, I'm in Cameroon, or the big guy in the United States doesn't have anything to do with me. It's a lie. He's making decisions. Those of you that work in the development sector, his policy change affected work, especially in Africa, because Africa is still quite aid dependent. It really affected a lot. Yeah, Disney says it's business unusual. Yes, I love that. It's business unusual. Anything can just happen. So you have politically motivated conflicts, whether it's Russia and Ukraine, whether it is Israel and Gaza, there's Iran. All of these things, these are the things that we should know. Immigration is such a hot topic right now. Economic shocks here and there, collapse of global systems and institutions. I was listening to the news yesterday, and the salt industry in the United Kingdom is struggling. I was like, salt industry is struggling. Are people not eating salt? But these are things that you may feel like, oh, it doesn't have to do with me. But if your organization, if you're doing work that there's supply chain implications in that, or if you are sourcing your products from a particular country and this country is experiencing this, it's going to really affect your business. And this is where I would say it's important to really understand what your organization is doing. Where does your organization source its raw materials from? What country ties does your organization have? Because when you're paying attention to the news, it helps you to know what to be looking out for, and you giving that insight. Of course, your business leaders, I'm sure they are paying attention to some of these things, but you begin to collate those insights and think about, okay, what is the communication implication? So if you work in the oil and gas sector, everything that is happening in Venezuela is your business. It is completely your business, because the bigger play there is about their oil, right? And then locally, depending on what country you're in, you have elections. Ripple effect of aid freeze, it still goes into 2026. Social uprising, and we're seeing that. So we're seeing in Iran as well, different places, because even in the United States, you're seeing all of those things, economic instability, and then continued cost of living crisis, which means that people are making decisions on what to spend money on, cost of living crisis. So people are making very hard decisions. And how do you stay abreast of all of these shifts? Please read the news or listen to the news. You can put it in the background when you're working, but it's going to be very important. I said something in a video that I released a few days ago. This is the year of the informed communicator. You really have to know what's happening globally, what's happening in the economic context. For a number of countries now, people are going to be releasing what is called the economic outlook. Even if you don't understand everything that is there, please read it and kind of know, okay, where is this going and all of that. Are you following me? Because I want to make sure that I'm carrying everyone along. If you have any question, you can raise your hand, but let me know in the chat. Okay, I see the emoji. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So all of these great things that I've said, what does it mean for you as a communications professional? One, it means that you have to understand that what the communications risk your organization can face in 2026. Now, I will have to do a teaching on communication risk later, but there are external risks, there are internal risk, and there are operational risk. And external risks are risks that are completely outside of your organization's control, e.g., the decision of the big man in the US. That's outside of your organization's control. The decision of the government, if they wake up and they create a policy that affects the fintech sector, that is outside of your control. But you have to be able to say, what's going on now. As a comms person, you don't have that because it's not your area of expertise. One thing that I really really love to do is to speak to people from different disciplines. I love to hear them speak. I love to listen to them have conversation. I love to watch, so there's the news segments where they're reading the news, but they're the segments where they bring in experts to analyze the news. I love listening to that because as I listen, I'm like, so what is the communication impact here? So what is the perspective? And what you can now begin to do is collate some of these things and take it as insights, take it as, oh, you put it in your dashboard, trends, watch this is happening, put it up. And then if your organization is not aware of it, you can then flag it to them. You have to know what the external risks are. What are the internal risks that your organization faces? Now, internal risks there are risks that are within the control of your organization, but they are not in your control as a comms person, e.g., customer service, e.g., bad product, bad service. Right? It's within your organization's control, but it's not within your control as a comms person. So you need to identify what these risks are. If your organization has a bad product, if people are always complaining, and then you have operational risks. Operational risks are your risks as a communications person within your own team. What are the risks that we face? Maybe limited budget, change algorithms, whatever it is. Be able to identify those potential risks. And then what can communications do to mitigate some of these risks? Some communication cannot do anything, but some you might be able to collaborate to mitigate some of these risks. Number two, how can communication support your organization in achieving its objectives this year? This is a question you must be able to answer. What are the strategic priorities, top 3 for your organization? What do they want to do? Where does communications come in? How can we strengthen reputation to be able to deliver this? How can we make sure that we do better stakeholder engagement to deliver whatever outcome it is that we want to deliver? You really have to sit down and be clear. And this is where the knowledge that you have is very, very important, because if you don't have the right knowledge, they can tell you what the objectives are, but you may not really know what communications can do that will make a big difference, that goes beyond let's do something on social media, let's do an event. It really has to be high level. It really has to be strategic. Number 3, do you understand what success looks like for your organization and senior leaders? What are the areas of focus and what are the key priority areas for the year? Again, tied to number 2, really have to outline it. By the end of 2026, what is a marker of success? Is it an increase in our share price? Is it an increase in our market share? Is it successful launch in new markets? Is it for us to just even stay alive? Because some organizations in certain sectors, the goal is let's not die in 2026, because the streets out there is quite rough, and they're just like, let's stay above waters. What exactly are their priorities? And then number 4, does your comms team, and please pay attention to this, have the right structure, procedures, and standards to provide the much needed support your organization and senior leaders need. See, this is not the year to be functioning just from your head. Things need to be put down. What is the process? How do you go from, okay, we want to do, your organization or your leader says we want to do this activity. What is the process of developing the materials that are needed? Even before the materials, developing the plan. What is the procedure? How do we create XYZ materials? What information do we need? When do we need it? All of these things need to be documented and communicated to your internal stakeholders. That's the way they're going to take you seriously. Yes, there's going to be resistance at the beginning when you start something new, but please stick with it. What is our process as a comms team? How do we go about doing this? And for those of you that you're here, you have leaders within your comms team, whether your comms manager, your head of comms, just start sowing the seed, because hey, you can't just go there and say, guys, we want to overhaul our system. It really has to come from the top. But at least bear in mind, suggest it, start speaking about it, but at least the right thing to do in your own little way, in your own corner. What processes can you begin to create? And then when they ask you, who knows, they can then adopt it for the wider team. But this is going to be very, very, very important. We need structure, we need processes, we need standards. And so what are some of the essential skills for comms career success this year? There's a lot, but I wanted to streamline it to 10. So number 1 is commercial and environmental awareness. Now, if you work in the development sector, commercial also applies to you. The organizations that fund you, what funding decisions are they making this year? You really need to know. So what is happening? So this person is what's happening politically in terms of the economy, social, technological, legal. So that's what that means. So again, this you can get just by listening to the news, checking in, just make it a point, even if it's 10 minutes every day, what's going on in the world. 2, deep industry and sector knowledge. You really have to understand the sector in which your organization operates in. You have to understand what's going on in this sector. What are the shifts? Again, you see, I always like to think about how to help myself. It's not everything that you go and study. It's not everything. In fact, there are some sectors that the more I read, the more confused I am. I don't know if there's anyone like that. But once I'm able to find somebody that works within that space and they can explain it. So I will say something like, explain this thing to me like I'm a 5-year-old. What exactly is happening within this sector? And the person gives me bam, 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 bam. Like a 5-year-old. I don't, I really don't say, oh, I'm 15 years in the industry, what I don't know, I don't know. So I say, explain it to me like a 5-year-old. And I say, oh, and then I ask questions. Find these people. And they're all around. And this is where your networking game has to really, if you say, I don't know where these people are, you have to find them. Number 3, strategic foresight and trend forecasting. What exactly is happening? The Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that's happening in this world that's happened before. And so you have people that their work is actually called foresight. And I met someone that does this strategic foresight. I was like, wow, there's such a role as this. And their role is to look at trends, to look at history, and, project what would happen in the future. Now, obviously, it's not 100% accurate, but there's some things that if you look at the trends, if you look at the data, if you look at the patterns, you can say, hey, this is the likely direction. And so these are skills that it will be good for us to build. Now, you're not going to be a master at it, but it's just to be aware. And it starts by collating the necessary trends. What are you seeing? What are people saying? What are things that you're saying, we need to pay attention to this. Number 4, critical thinking. Please, this is really, 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 especially in this age of outsourcing to AI, this is going to make a real huge difference. Being able to sit down and say, what is the implication of this? What is the communication perspective? What can communications do? What does this mean for our organization? What does this mean in the larger industry, sector, country, globally? Being able to sit down and think, and which also means that you need time. I know that we work around the clock, but you need time to be able to sit down and think and drill down as to, okay, what exactly are we doing here, and where can communications make a real difference? It's going to be very important. Research and measurement. If you don't know how to do research, if you don't know how to measure, the impact of the work that you're doing, especially in this year, I would say, please sit down and learn. And there are books, there are resources I would share at the end of this. Number 6, tailored stakeholder engagement. One size fits all engagement no longer works. In fact, it goes to the point of, how you'd say we're targeting and we're reaching all women. There's nothing like that. You will not reach all women, because women in their 20s are different from women in their 30s, are different from women in their 50s. So how do you segment your stakeholders? By their preferences, by their needs, by what it is, their level of awareness and engagement with your organization. And so you have to be able to sit down and do it. And I hope that, every time I talk about comms or I teach, I always try to say, I hope you can see why communications can never, ever be a one-man function, because it's a lot. Imagine someone trying to sit down and do this tailored stakeholder engagement, and that same person too is now doing research. That same person is the one creating content. That same person is, it's not the best. Solutions thinking. Problems arise. Rather than being fixated on the problems, what is the solution? How do we solve this problem? You're coming to your leaders with insights. And so from this stakeholder engagement, you get the pulse of the external stakeholders. What are they saying? What are their needs? And bring them as insights to your organization. Hey, this is what they need. Here's how I think, or here's what we as comms think that we can do to satisfy this need. Let's bring them to the table. So you become a solution provider, and you're doing that through the advice, because at the end of the day, you're meant to be a trusted advisor, but you're doing that because you have insights, you're following the data, you're listening. And as you begin to do that, they then begin to recognize that this is a voice we need. We need this person's mindset. We need this person. So you're not, forcefully saying, oh, comms must be at the table. No, you're showing them that, hey, you need comms at the table. Issues management, because again, we're living in uncertain times. So issues are going to crop up, issues that have never cropped up before. People are reacting very emotionally to things right now. So your issues management game, please go and learn it. Communications risk is also tied to issues management, because the difference between a communications risk and an issue is that communications risk is it could potentially happen. Right? It's like, oh, this can happen. There is a probability that it will happen. An issue is something that has started to build up. So people are talking about this bad product. People are complaining about this, right? Before it then, if it's not handled well, that's when it nosedives into a crisis. And then influencing through data. I had to really sit down because of the different trainings that I've done, different conversations I've had with communications professionals, and the frustration of we're not taken seriously, they're not listening to our advice. And I'm just like, okay, what can be done about this? What can be done to change that? And I've realized that it's influencing through data, because I had to sit down and say, how do I get the buy-in of the clients that I work with? I don't just go and say, okay, you people, your reputation is bad. Your reputation is this, or this is that, or your CEO is the problem. I come with data. From social listening tools, I screenshot certain things, I, benchmark against their competitors, but I come with things that they can see, because when finance comes to the table, finance comes with the graphs, finance comes with the bar charts, right? When legal comes, they come with their precedent, they come with things that people can tangibly see. We become with our word of mouth. And because they don't even understand the function, it's like, what's this one saying? So you really have to learn how to influence through data. How do you get the data that you need? Now, this doesn't mean that when you come with the data, they would accept, but it is more compelling, because you see, once you have the data and you give the counsel, it is left to your bosses and your leaders to take your advice, and they can decide to take the advice or not. But we really need to learn how to influence through data. How to also influence means that you need to understand your organizational context. We don't like this word office politics, but it's a reality. Who is the voice of reason within the organization? Who is the one that your CEO quickly listens to? You might be the one that comes up with an idea, but if you say it, they don't listen. If somebody else says it, those ones have bigger, I don't know what you call it, with them, and then maybe you go through the person. For me, it's for the thing to be done, but then don't let anybody take credit for the work that you're doing. So you really have to sit down. You can see why this critical thinking is so important in the things that we're doing. Okay, so let's now go into achieving increased professional impact this year. Some of you will need to go back to the classroom. And by classroom, I mean enrolling for formal learning and training. And let me tell you, even if you say, oh, Adedoyin, look, I know I'm an expert, please still try and go back to the classroom. Last year, I went for a one day training. It was a chief communications officer training. I would say 75% of the things that were taught were things I already knew. But the rest I didn't know. Oh my God. In fact, it was from that class that understanding of communication risk has been really, really essential, really jumped at me. And learning from my co-participants or my co-students, listening to their own context. I would never have had that opportunity if I wasn't in the classroom. Learning from the person that taught that particular class, his own lived experience as a professional with 20 years of experience working with governments across the world and just sharing very high level stuff. So I knew technically 75% of the content in terms of frameworks, in terms of principles and best practices, but that lived experience, the application in different contexts and scenarios, it was really eye-opening and enlightening, and I came back even better than before I went for the training. So please enroll for formal training and learning. I know depending on your stage, your level, some of it can be a bit costly, which is why I'm saying go to HR and ask, is there budget? Don't even say is there budget. Just say I would like to go for this training. What can this organization do to support me? Because there is actually budget for training, but they give it to other functions. And so you have to advocate for that. But please learn. Join a professional association and community and be engaged. I'm particularly engaged with the CIPR, and it's been so beneficial to my journey. But there are other national and other global professional associations. The reality of these organizations or associations is that they give you access. That's what I have realized. They give you access. They give you access to networks, and people are doing incredible work. In fact, I met someone that through the CIPR network that's doing something, within the African market, and you're like, how did they even find you to do this thing? But I'll never have met that person if I wasn't in that space. So when you can, and these are things that you can plan towards, and I've shared how it took me about 2 years before I could finally even get the money to join the CIPR. But you can start with your local one. Even if you say, what are they really doing? I'm not really sure. Just show up. Just go. If you can attend a few of the events that they're doing, just go meet somebody new. Those things actually do make a difference, and be engaged as best as you can. Virtual sessions, for example, and I always advise all of these associations, join them on LinkedIn. They have the programs and content that is specifically for their paid members. Some of these associations, I just join their sessions. I read their posts. I look at it. If it's a free session, I join. I partake in it, even if I'm not yet a member. So again, make use of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a powerful channel. Next is position for internal visibility through results and internal advocacy. Some of you need to do a lot of internal advocacy. Talk about the work that you're doing. In fact, there was a session, I think it was a training, and I told them at the end of every week, you should have do a bulletin, internal bulletin. Here's what Comms was up to this week. And every week do it. Let them know what you are doing. Let them know the results. Over time, they're going to look forward to it, but they will see that we are working. Now, depending on your context, do something that communicates to people internally that Comms is working. Comms is beyond taking pictures, is beyond press releases. In fact, in those kind of things, and how you need to be thinking about it is, how can I collaborate with one of the departments to achieve their objectives? And so in my bulletin, I'm highlighting that, hey, we did this with the sales department, and this was the result, so that people know that they can come to me. But before they come to me, this is why I said have your process, procedures, and your standards, so that you know that you need to come to us 3 weeks in advance. You need to provide this information. There's a Google Sheet or whatever form people need to fill to get the information. Then this is it. If you need a design, this and that, there needs to be a process to it. But position for internal visibility this year. Linked to that is, please create a solid structure around your comms work. It's something that takes time to do, especially if you've been operating without a structure before now. If you're the only person in your comms team, it may be a bit easier, because I would say, is it easy? I don't even know. It's just a different level of hard, because if it's only you, it can be overwhelming to do everything. But just create some sort of structure. What are our processes? And then leverage peer learning. So mastermind sessions for collective growth. And I talked about this, I think, at the beginning of last year, right? So a lot of people come to me, what are they doing? Want you to mentor me, one-on-one sessions. I'm like, that's great. But the reality of it is, and Dinchi is here, my calendar, my schedule is so crazy. But if about 5 of you come together and you're in a mastermind where you guys are saying, you know what, we're going to keep ourselves accountable for our professional development, and 5, 10 of you, I guess that the more people you have, the more you have people that will not be serious. But like if 5 people, and then you come to me and say, what they doing, we are facing this, we've collated our challenges, we want to invite you to speak to our mastermind. It's easier for me to do because it's all of you together and I'm not having to deal with somebody one-on-one. So I said to some people, and it was interesting that later on last year, somebody on Instagram that I follow posted about a mastermind that she started with her peers and how they're using it to develop themselves professionally. It's so important. We tend to just look at the people that are above, people that have gone ahead, the senior professionals. That's very, very good. But I'm always an advocate of peer learning. I'm always an advocate of going along with your peers. Another thing is, oh, we want to get this book or get this resource. It's expensive. It's more than we can afford individually. We come together, we pool funds. First person reads it, passes on to second person, passes on to the third person, passes on to the fourth person. So you learn together, you collaborate in that way. If there are resources that you want to get, you all pool the funds and you learn it together. So those are the things that can really help to cushion the financial effects of some of these things. Unfortunately, you can't all say 5 of us will join the association as one, a professional association as one person, but you guys can come together and you learn together. You keep yourselves accountable. You're learning from each other. Okay, you, what did you learn? Okay, you go for this training. You go for this training. What did you learn from it? So please consider peer learning. Consider creating a mastermind of, again, like-minded, you're of the same values, so that at the end of the year, you guys can say, oh, we did this together, we're winning together. I don't believe in my group with my friends, everybody is winning. Like, and my own mastermind is not even a professional, just for professional, spiritual as well. We're praying for each other, we're looking out for each other in terms of opportunities. So think about it. Achieving increased professional impact. Attend industry conferences and events and network and contribute purposefully. Please have in mind to go for one conference. You don't have to travel. You can be right there in your city. And in that career cheat sheet, I put like global conference. Obviously, I don't have eyes on all the events and conferences happening across the continent, but I put some there, right? Some of it may be big, some of it may just be a small, summit, round table, whatever. Just try and go. Don't just be in front of your laptop in your house. I personally don't like going out, but when it's time to show up at the right spaces, I go. So please have one in mind. If you have the financial resources, aim for a regional one. So the World PR Forum, for example, is happening in Nigeria. If you're in November, if you can plan and prepare towards it, it will be great to attend, because now that one is global people coming, to Nigeria. So global meets national. So that should be very interesting. So just plan for some of these things. It's really, really good for you. Get a mentor to guide you and show you the way. Now, mentorship, we don't have a lot of structured mentorship programs in the comms space, unfortunately. The Comms Avenue, we have our Comms Mentorship program. We're doing batch 9. I think we'll start call for applications by next month, but there's a limit, right? If we have 100 mentors, there's a limit to the number of mentees that we can take on board. And to God be the glory. I'm so grateful to God that through that program, of almost 500 young professionals have been mentored. Like, I'm so proud. When we started, it just looked like, what are these people doing? But we started in 2020 and 500 plus professionals. We're really, really proud of it. But there ain't so many like that. And even as we plan to scale it, really think about how you will get a mentor. So identify people in the industry who know their stuff. I always talk about Shola Abulu, for example. That's someone that really, really knows her stuff. But if she knows her stuff, she's visible. It means that a lot of people too are also asking her to be, I want you to be my mentor, just like as I get. So what it means is it's like an indirect mentorship. Start from there. So everywhere she is, go. LinkedIn Live, watch it, read everything she's putting out, every resource. If you can pay for her trainings, because when you in the training setting, you get to learn, you get to really immerse yourself in that space. And then as you go along, if you know that she's at an event, you go there, you show up, you listen, and you introduce yourself to her. Over time, the proximity becomes smaller and smaller, and then who knows, it can become a direct mentorship because of that level of seriousness. And so you may want to think about it like that. Don't choose a mentor that may be out of reach or super busy that will not have time for you. It's difficult to mentor in the comms industry because the work is round the clock. it is really, really round the clock. So anyone that is doing mentorship, that person is really intentional about giving back. Then expand your mind beyond the world of communications. And that's what it really gives you an advantage. When you understand business, for example, you understand the development sector, you understand, different areas. My team, they always say, you know a lot about a lot of things. Because my hack, I just let people talk. Someone is telling me, oh, I do. What's the latest one that someone spoke to me about? Radio something something something. I say, what's that about? And they begin to talk. I may never need it, but I may need it. I may be somewhere they start talking about. Oh, okay, and then my brain pulls up the things that the person was saying in the conversation, and I listen with rapt attention. I'm just so curious and I just read about it. So expand your mind beyond the world of communications. Please build your career on the right foundation, on the foundation of knowledge, on the foundation of principles, the right frameworks. Comms is not by chance. There's an element of creativity in what we do, but creativity is just a subsection of it. It's not a go with the flow type of profession. It's a profession that has principles. It's a science and an art. So understand the science of it. Make sure you have that solid, irrespective of whether your organization now values you or not. Like I said at the beginning, this is not about your present organization. It's about you and where you are going in your career. And then finally, have a solid anchor. We are really in uncertain times. Like, expect anything to happen. Like when I turn on the news, I was like, hey, what's happening in the world today? What are we hearing? You can sleep and wake up now. Something has happened. And me, my own anchor, unashamedly, is Jesus. Because sometimes all I can do is pray. All I can do is say, Lord, help me. I don't know how to figure this out. Please have a solid anchor. When you have that anchor in terms of your faith, it means that your identity is not tied to your job title. It's not tied to your organization. So irrespective of whatever happens within your organization, you must be able to separate yourself from that, because I've seen even very senior people, they lose their jobs for reasons, unforeseen reasons. They thought that they would be there forever. And then they just woke up and they struggled to find themselves. You don't want to be that. So please have a solid anchor. So coming to the end now. So some practical tools and resources. I sent the career workbook this morning. If you didn't get it, we'll put it in the post-session email. It's something that I just created so that you can sit down, think through the things that you've heard. You see, I find that sometimes we go for this session. Now you finished, you listen to Adedoyin, you're off to the party or the engagement that you're meant to do today or you have scheduled, and you forget everything that you have heard. So sit down and reflect. What am I taking away? Sit down realistically and say, where do I need to upskill this year? What learnings do I need? Forget about how much it costs. Forget about, hey, it's going to take, what do I need? And then begin to now say, okay, how do I close these gaps? The Comms Career Cheat Sheet is going to be available on Monday. It will be accessible via my website. So those of you that follow me on LinkedIn or other platforms, you'll see the announcement. I have this book called The Proficient Communicator, which is also on my website. You will find it very, very useful. I think I put some resources in that book. I can't remember. I'm also releasing a new ebook on Friday 30th, the end of the month. It's a communications consultant's diary. So I shared 10 lessons from my journey working as a communications consultant. So those of you that you're saying, maybe 9 to 5 is not for me. Maybe I want to be like Adedoyin. I want to be a consultant. I want to be an advisor. I want to start, or maybe you've already started 10 lessons. And honestly, whether you're a consultant or not a consultant, you can actually read the book, but it's specifically for those who want to go that path, and it will be out by God's grace Friday 30th. And then you have my YouTube channel where I'll be sharing what I want to do more of this year. If those of you that have been following me for a while, you know that I had my bite-sized comm courses, which I've not done in over a year. So I want to do maybe at least 2, because it does take a lot to do that, and do more teaching. So I'm teaching more on topics such as reputation management, just drill down on some of those technical topics that gives you the general overview, right? And to really shorten that learning curve. So if there are topics that you want me to teach on, YouTube has a community section now, so you can always go there. Oh, are they doing, I would really like to learn on this. It's not like everything I'll be able to teach you, but the ones that I can teach, because time is also there, I will teach on the topic. And then there's Shola Abulu and Associates, their YouTube channel as well. You can definitely learn a lot from it. So We are a Q&A time, but I hyperlinked some of these things, and in the post session email, we'll send you some of the links. So my website, this is my website. I'm Adedoyin Jaiyesimi on LinkedIn. You can connect with me. You can get my books here. I have a book called A's for Audacity, which is about faith in life, career, my YouTube channel, and then of course the Comms Mentorship Substack, where I also share information and updates. All right, we've reached the end of the session. I hope that this has been valuable. Like Jafar said, it was actually meant to be short. I just wanted to keep it to the key points. And I will be sharing more content on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing more of these virtual sessions and in-person sessions, as the Lord gives me grace in the course of the year. So please stay connected. Join the Comms Mentorship Substack. Well, I say join, just subscribe on Substack so that you can get the newsletters, you can get the information. And then if you have questions, I have a 30-minute free one-on-one slot that will be open from the first week of February. So if you feel like, what are they doing? I need to speak to you, my unique circumstance or whatever, it's going to be open. The session is 30 minutes, but please show up. My goal really is to support you as best as I can in your career journey. I want you to deliver results. I want you to get to 2026, and it is very, very clear that you've done work and it's valued. And I want you to enjoy communications as a financially rewarding and fulfilling career, because I am, so it is a journey, but I hope that I'm painting in your picture what is possible. I hope I'm painting in your mind an aspiration to do more, to go higher beyond even your present organization. So thank you all so much. I will stay on. I think I'll stay on for 30 minutes because I actually have another engagement. I will stay on for 30 minutes. If there are any other questions, any other thoughts anybody wants to share, or anything you need my take on,